maybe that way. So it's not just
Right.
like that. Better?
Hello and welcome. We have been receiving a lot of questions about the COVID-19 impacts on your finances. So today we are going to start our first series of conversations with a financial counselor. So we have a couple of questions that we're going to be asking, but just to get started, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Cassidy. I am a leads marketing coordinator at HomeStart. I've been with HomeStart for about 2.5 years now, and I'm going to be asking our program manager some questions. So Dina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Dina Nibs, and I've been doing financial counseling and education for about 14 years. This is my passion because it's very important for our families to know what to do, especially in types of crisis. So I will be happy to answer all your questions.
Awesome. Okay, so the first major question that we've been getting is the stimulus check that we've heard a lot about from the federal government. So everyone's going to be receiving this check. And Dina, what should we know about this when we're thinking about putting this into our budget? How will this impact our finances, and what should we do with this check?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, first of all, what I would advise you to do is to look at your whole financial and as a whole, your whole financial situation. Try to look at it of what's going to happen from now till for the next 6 months or so. How safe is your job at this moment? If you lose your job, will you be able to get unemployment? Once you figure out your income situation, then you need to look at your expenses. Is there some area that you can save money? And think of 3 important actions you might want to do. Is reduce, cut off, and get it for free. So for example, if you have a bill, let's say rent, then can you ask the landlord to lower the rent based on your financial situation? The landlord might prefer to do that instead of having an empty property and not getting any income at all. That will be a good way of reducing that expense. Or you could move out and move in with a relative or a friend. You can offer doing chores instead of paying rent, or doing babysitting, or help pay some utility bills. That would be a good way to cut off that expense or get the same service for free. The second thing that you need to do is to create a crisis budget. So once you look at all your expenses and see whether you need to reduce it, to cut it off completely, or get it for free, then you need to sit down and then write down all your expenses. Put them in order of priority. Think of what is your need, what is your want, and place the needs at the top of your list. This is what we call a crisis budget. The goal is to have enough income for your expenses and maybe set some money aside for the future. It is very important to always look at your needs first. So when you get this money, extra money that you're not counting on, it's very important that you use it to cover your needs. Let's figure out what to do with that extra money that you're receiving from the stimulus then when you look at your list of needs. And then if you have some money left over, save it for the future. This is not the time to buy that big TV. It is time to make sure that you and your family have shelter, food, and things you need to stay healthy. And finally, what I would advise you to do is to become very knowledgeable about community resources in your area, such as energy assistance, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, and to work with a financial counselor or coach might also be helpful. So remember that you don't have to struggle alone. There is agencies like HomeStart that you can call, and you will have your one-on-one help with a professional advisor that can help you go through the whole process together. You don't have to do it alone.
Okay, awesome. And kind of a follow-up question. So if someone has two expenses that are very important two needs that they have, like maybe their mortgage and their car utility or whatever it might be, how do you prioritize between two really, really important needs with this money?
Okay. Well, that is an individual question. So that's why it's important for you to sit down with a professional, because I cannot give an advice that will fit everybody. Every person has their own individual situation. So you as a person need to know what your needs are and then categorize them. It's according to your own priorities. So for example, let's say that shelter is important, right? That's a need, but then you have to decide whether you need to pay for it or maybe cut back a little bit in that expense or get it for free. So let's say the example that I had before, if I have an apartment, for example, that is a 3-bedroom apartment and I'm paying $900 for rent, but then I can get another one. Maybe I just need a 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment and get it cheaper. Maybe I will move so that I can have my same need covered, but at a cheaper price. But then when you have two different needs, for example, mortgage or rent, and then you have credit cards, both of them are needs. You need to pay your debts. But then you have to balance it out and say, okay, if I don't pay my mortgage, what can happen? I may lose my house. I'm going to be homeless. If I don't pay my credit cards, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to damage my credit, maybe, depending on the situation now. Some new regulations are being put into place that if you don't pay your credit cards, will not even affect your credit at the moment. So you balance it out, and when you meet with your counselor, you say, okay, I have all these expenses, I have all these needs. These are too important to me. I want to pay my mortgage, but I also want to pay my credit cards. What shall I do? For most people, then you have to decide what is the most important thing for you is shelter. So you're going to, of course, pay your mortgage. And at this very moment, it might not be very, very smart to pay your credit cards. So if you have enough money to pay them all, wonderful. But if you have only a set amount of money that you can pay either or, then what is important to you, that's what you're going to pay.
Okay. That's really helpful, Dina. Thank you so much for that advice. And hopefully moving forward, we can answer all of the questions that you have about this. But like Dina said, the most important thing is to have your unique situation looked at by a professional and expert. So if you have specific questions about your own personal financial situation, give us a call. You can get started with one-on-one advising. And we hope you enjoyed this conversations with a counselor. And again, if you have more questions, feel free to ask away. Thanks for joining us.